Barstool Boss and Pizza Roncoeur, Dave Portnoy, I don't know, I'm out of my mind today, has blasted the race baiters who believe Caitlin Clark is only popular because she is white.
Monica McNutt just claimed Caitlin Clark is only popular because she's a white girl from the middle of America, not her record-breaking stats, not her revolutionary passing, not her logo, three-pointers that changed basketball forever.
That is a narrative that is very popular among the morons. Major moron, Monica McNutt, how she has a job, I absolutely know, at ESPN, said, well, you know, she's in the Midwest, she's popular, let's face it, she's a white girl. Really? Okay, let's examine.
But Dave Portnoy isn't letting this slide. He's armed with viewership numbers that completely destroy McNutt's race-baiting narrative, and you won't believe how badly her argument falls apart when actual facts enter the conversation if you're a fan of Caitlin Clark. And don't believe McNutt's lies. Comment down below which city, state, or country you're watching from. Are you ready? Let's go.
Caitlin Clark is a superstar, not a female superstar. She is a superstar.
We were coming to see Caitlin Clark play.
She moves the needle. The WNBA has been looking for someone who moves.
Let's talk about the bombshell that ESPN analyst Monica McNutt has dropped that has basketball fans completely furious. During an interview with BBC special correspondent Katty K. McNutt made a statement about Caitlin Clark that instantly set social media on fire. She actually said,
Why her?
Same thing.
Why her?
Well, I was just about to say same thing for Angel Reese when I had a chance to cover their games, but I think Caitlin represented. And again, some of this to me probably is not fair to her because it was not anything that she said or was truly based on her personality, but she was a white girl from the middle of America.
McNutt essentially suggested that Clark's massive popularity stems primarily from her being white and from the Midwest, not from her extraordinary talent or work ethic. This take isn't just bad, it's insulting to anyone who's watched Clark play.
So she represented a whole lot to a lot of people, whether that is truly what she prescribed to or not. We can all say she is a dynamic basketball player and a force both on the court and the marketing sense. But I do think, same thing with folks that may have fallen in love with Angel Reese that she may or may not have agreed with everything they had to say either. We attach our fandom to these icons for all types of...
Reality, Clark averaged 19, 2 points, 5, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists per game in her rookie season. Those aren't just good numbers, they're exceptional. Her court vision, deep three-point shooting range, and revolutionary passing ability have transformed how the women's game is played. What's even more telling is that the Indiana Fever are scheduled for 41 nationally televised games next season. The networks don't make those decisions based on a player's background, they make them based on who drives viewership.
Caitlin Clark, the people's champion! Let's get it!
That's a deep one.
Bang!
Just announced that Caitlin Clark and the Fever will be playing 41 of 44 games this year on national TV.
You're coming to watch the other girl, right? Right? Bang!
Teams are moving their games with the Fever to NBA arenas so they can sell more tickets.
How about that? Bang!
Angel Reese attempted a three this deep. I think she might dislocate her shoulder.
Bang!
You want some butter with that bread? Butter. Butter.
Butter!
McNutt's comments completely ignore the highlight reel moments that have made Clark a sensation. Those logo threes that leave defenders helpless, the no-look passes that thread impossible needles, and the clutch performances in high-pressure moments. None of those skills have anything to do with being a white girl from the middle of America.
There's actually a debate on who was Rookie of the Year last year. Imagine being that delusional.
Bang!
People need to understand she saved this league.
Louder, there's no TV deals, no ad sponsorships, heck, no shoe deals for you, Angel Reese, no McDonald's money.
The league losing millions of dollars each year. She saved them from bankruptcy.
Time to be grateful.
Bang!
93% of her games on national TV.
She's like that!
Fans across social media immediately called out McNutt for diminishing Clark's achievements. One user pointed out the logical fallacy in McNutt's reasoning. If being white and from the Midwest were enough to become a basketball superstar, we'd see dozens of Caitlin Clarks. We don't, because what makes her special is her once-in-a-generation talent.
Della Dunn, Sabrina, Brianna, Kelsey, Diana Taurasi. You had and have these white players in the league that never galvanized the people like this. Alright? Now, granted, you can have some people come back and say, well, the media and the coverage wasn't as good as it is now. NILs and things like that weren't popping off. That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it, man. If they were that captivating, they would have got the eye.
Suggesting that Clark's unprecedented impact on viewership is primarily due to her racial background, rather than her transcendent skill set, is not just incorrect, it's a disservice to the game, and to all the young players who look up to her regardless of race or background.
But honestly, the main reason is because of her talents. It's not because of her race. Her race has nothing to do with it. Especially with kids. She's saying kids don't see color, man. The kids that I grew up around, and when I grew up as a kid, I didn't see color, man. I did not see color. I didn't care about color. I didn't know what color was. I just knew you were a human being, and I was trying to be your friend. It's kind of a crazy, nonsensical take to say that kids were looking up to her because she was white.
What most people don't realize is that McNutt's comments about Clark's race aren't just a one-off hot take, they're the latest chapter in what appears to be a calculated campaign to undermine Clark at every turn. The receipts go back to September 2024, when McNutt made the jaw-dropping claim that Caitlin Clark deserved only 60% of the credit for the Fever, making the playoffs. Think about that for a second. The Indiana Fever hadn't reached the postseason for 6 straight years before Clark arrived, yet somehow in McNutt's mind, the rookie who transformed the franchise deserved barely more than half the credit for their success.
Spectacular and exceeded expectations. The pick and roll between Caitlin and Aaliyah has been fantastic. Kelsey Mitchell is having a career year, and all of those role players get a slice. I don't know quite how.
Well, that's a lot of pizza pie. I get you. But there's got to be one big slice, and that's Clark. What percentage are we talking about for Caitlin Clark? 80%, 90%, 95%?
I mean, listening to her all season long, I've called a couple of their games. She's team first. Statistically, you're probably looking at it.
This bizarre 60% assessment becomes even more suspicious when you notice how McNutt discusses other star players. When it comes to anyone not named Caitlin Clark, McNutt typically gives full-throated credit for team achievements. But with Clark, suddenly, it's time to divide up the credit pie. Then came the Rookie of the Year debate, where McNutt vocally backed Angel Reese, despite Clark's clearly superior statistical case. McNutt's reasoning: team success should be the primary factor, but wait, wasn't this the same analyst who just refused to give Clark full credit for her team's success? The contradiction is impossible to ignore.
You would have this guy in the playoffs right now, which means that Angel Reese, in theory, has impacted winning in a greater way. But I think the double-double streak that she's on, the 8 consecutive double-doubles, for Caitlin, she's leading rookies in points, minutes, and assists. There was terrific stats put out over the weekend by our colleague Michael Vopel about the percentage, about her being the player that has seen the most blitzes in the league. And so she's navigating a different level of defensive intensity, and rightfully so, because she's playing a point guard role for this Fever squad. So I think today, looking at the standings, you probably tend to lean.
Basketball fans have noticed this pattern too. Social media has erupted with calls for ESPN to fire McNutt, with countless posts pointing out her ever-shifting criteria for greatness. When Clark puts up historic numbers, McNutt pivots to team success. When Clark's team succeeds, McNutt suddenly wants to distribute credit to everyone else. When all else fails, she suggests Clark's popularity is about race rather than her revolutionary playing style.
To me, yeah, jealous, sure. I mean, would you be jealous of somebody that got $28 million a shoe deal or whatever the deal is before you step foot in the pros?
After the women's NCAA championship, viewership numbers were released, where Clark in Iowa set a record for the four most watched women's college basketball games ever. Let me say it again, of all time. That's a lot. Within a 13-month span. So from one Final Four to the other Final Four, the 4 most watched games ever in the women's Final Four involved Iowa and Caitlin Clark. That's her junior and senior year. People are going to tell you that the reason Caitlin Clark was so popular in college was her rivalry with Angel Reese. Okay, you can tell us that, but based on this sentence right here by Dave Portnoy, there is no Angel Reese. There was no Angel Reese. There was South Carolina. Angel Reese played at LSU. $18.9 million, the most ever for a women's basketball game, as opposed to $8.5 million with a white star, Paige Beckers. Now, The $18.5 million did not involve Angel Reese, as I said earlier. It did not. Actually, it involved USC, South Carolina. Guess who's this year's game involved? That was $10 million plus, down from last year. South Carolina, a big power. It wasn't like all of a sudden San Diego State came into the NCAA Women's Final Four and people were like, yeah, I don't really want to watch that. I like watching powers. This year, you had the two, quote, superpowers of women's college basketball.